Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another and potentially the biggest Premier League preview, at least we've done so far. Maybe not all season long, depends on how the rest of the league season goes. But as of now, probably the biggest preview we've done because Chelsea are taking on Arsenal, who, as crazy as that sounds, are top of the league and have been for a hot minute now. Now, thankfully, we're all praising the Lord. Man City won in the 95th minute against Fulham, thanks to a penalty by Erling Haaland. No idea whether it was a justified penalty or not. I have no clue. But I'm very glad that Man City won because none of us, well, not sure about Alex, but certainly not myself and Pies, do want Arsenal to win the league. Even if City will at some point, they have more titles than us, but it's City, man. They're cheat code, they don't count. But Arsenal, we don't want them winning anything. I can't be having that. Absolutely not. But they are good at the moment. And as we know, we won in midweek. But we won in midweek in a game where we should have rested everybody. Instead, we had to put out a strong team because we were absolutely battered in the Premier League last weekend. So we needed this extra pick-me-up game for the first teamers to actually go into this Arsenal game in reasonable confidence. So double whammy, really. The fact that we got battered by Brighton. Not only did it cost us 3 points, not only did our manager get ridiculed, not only, did our players all have a stinker, we also had to use up the game that we should have used for rest, just to give them some extra confidence. So everything's just coming up mid-house at the moment, isn't it? And we obviously have to play Arsenal at the moment. Now, one question I have to ask you, and I'll start with S. Pies. Why on earth are we playing at 12 o'clock midday tomorrow? Like, who's come up with that idea? Like, don't they want atmosphere in stadiums? Like, have you ever gone to a football game at 12 o'clock? There's never good atmosphere at 12 o'clock. Everyone's just sleepy. It's Sunday and it's 12 o'clock. What are you doing, man? Pies, do you agree with that? Do you like the really early kickoffs? Because I don't.
I don't and I do. I think, they're usually the earliest they are is 12:30 in the UK, so I don't know why it is a 12. It's even earlier than the usual, but yeah,
exactly.
usually get
earlier than the Saturday early one. It's crazy.
Usually you get one or two a season, and sometimes they're the big games. This is obviously a massive game for us and Arsenal. So yeah, I don't really mind because it means I don't get home too late. But at the same time, it's like, are the team going to be, awake? Are they ready? You know what I mean? Like it's always, what Chelsea are like with early kickoffs historically. We're really, really bad. So hopefully the fact that we're at home makes us more up for it.
Yeah, it's a weird one because sometimes I feel like that these football organizations, they don't use brains. Like, we played at 8 p.m. on Wednesday against Zagreb. Like, so the team, these are athletes, right? Trying to perfect their body for when they have to be at peak power. And 3 days before, we're doing it at 8 p.m. and now we're doing it at 12 o'clock midday. How can your body be in peak condition 3 days apart at two completely different times of day? Like boxers, how they prepare to almost be peak ready to go at midnight because that's when the big fights usually start. They train like that. They live like that. Why do we just mix it around like that in football? Maybe I'm making a bigger thing out of nothing. Who knows? But I just find it a little bit questionable. Alex, you watch a lot more, well, probably a lot more football anyway, but certainly a lot from more different places of the world. There's certainly places in the world that do early kickoffs, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, I find it strange. Why do we need to play at 12? Like, I understand we obviously need to fit all the games in and stuff, but is it just me that finds this weird?
Well, the alternative would have been 12 o'clock today. I think that's why it's been moved. For you were meant to kick off 12 o'clock today, but because Arsenal played on Thursday, that was literally not happening. So this is your alternative. Well, I guess.
But why not do like a 7:30 kickoff on a Saturday?
Yeah. I guess that is that's the question. That's what happened last.
Wouldn't have helped Arsenal in this case. Fair enough. Do tomorrow at 6:30 then. Do you know what
I mean? Yeah, that's happened with Liverpool and Leeds, right? It's an irritating one, but you can't complain because Arsenal are coming to your ground anyway. So you're both suffering the same thing.
That's true. But it is in London, so it doesn't really matter who's going to whose ground. Obviously, in terms of atmosphere, yeah, but in terms of travel, it doesn't make a difference, does it? But hey, here we are. Took this to a tangent that I didn't necessarily intend this to go down to start with, but I don't know. It just got a bit tricky. But anyways, here we are. Alex, I'll start with you. Arsenal on the top of the league. Why are they top of the league, man? Like, why is that the case? Like, it's because like Arteta, like, he could have been sacked about 3 times. Fair play to them. They stuck with him, and it was like, trust the process. And now they actually trusted the process at the top of the league all of a sudden. But are they top of the league in a serious manner, or are they top of the league like Chelsea were top of the league like 3 out of the last 4 years come November? Because we were under Lampard, we were under Tuchel, we were top of the league all the time, but never past December. So do you think Arsenal are serious here? Or is this a situation where, well, one bad thing will happen and then a few bad results will come in a row and then they're fighting for top 4 again?
I mean, maybe that can always happen. They're an inexperienced team, blah, 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 blah. But the stats show that they are right as good as Manchester City at the moment. They should be taken. I mean, if we're comparing to Chelsea when they've been top before under Lampard and Tuchel, I think Arsenal should be taken much more seriously, because when Chelsea have been top before, I remember the expected goals, which measures the quality of a chance the team creates and faces, it always suggested that Chelsea are overperforming, and in reality they were performing like more of like a top 6 team than a top 2 team. Arsenal, I mean, if we go through the non-penalty expected goals, they're for both goals and against, they're only second to City in both metrics as well. While they've overperformed a little bit, I think you can watch them. You can kind of see, if we're talking about Arteta, that what's worked is they've worked with a system for so long that everyone knows what their role is, and the patterns of play have kind of all built up. I think with Chelsea, one of your big issues is that you will know, you can probably take the words out of my mouth, passing side to side outside of the box without a plan to get into it. Arsenal don't face that problem anymore because they know their plan, and they know their plan better than defenders do trying to defend against them. So really, I think that's more of the cause, the fact that they spent so much time working on this and the recruitment's been so excellent that it's matched a really good plan from Arteta that's eventually paid off.
Now, I don't want to get too much into the Arsenal stuff just yet, but one follow-up question on that. What I find interesting, because Arsenal were decent last season, like obviously they had some ups, they had some downs, they were really good at times, then they had some really like just typical Arsenal results at times in the season. Obviously they recruited well. Obviously we're aware of that, whether it's Saliba coming back from loan, whether it's obviously Gabriel Jesus. But they weren't like anywhere near this good last season, unless I missed something. But at least from my knowledge, they weren't anywhere near this good. So how did the plans that they have, which clearly work, how did they go from the end of last season being like, yeah, you know, works at times, doesn't work at other times, going to works all the time and basically they don't have any of these problems anymore? Is that just the acquisition of basically Gabriel Jesus in attack? Or is that just because we've had at Chelsea, whenever we've had summers and we're like almost expecting us, okay, yeah, by the time we then finally next season we'll finally be good because this great manager that we always have, it's like, they'll finally have a summer and make things better. And whenever that happens, we never get any better. But for Arsenal got better. And I'm like, why did they get better? And we never, like, obviously we never stick to managers as long as Arsenal, as Arteta has been at Arsenal. Now I understand. And in his first summer, it didn't have this drastic improvement either. But is it like just getting used to more of what the manager wants? Is it just more cohesiveness as a team, cohesion? Or is it, like you said, obviously the acquisitions?
Well, I think, look, because of the way they ended last season, where they dropped out of the top 4, led some bad results, I think it makes it feel like Arsenal's progress is kind of like, if you're taking this season into account, it's kind of gone like this and then shot up. Whereas I actually think last season they had quite a lot of injuries going towards the end of the campaign, and they had some unfortunate results. But I think that kind of masked was what Arsenal were doing, where if you took away the injuries, they were still actually a team that was improving nearly every game. So it's quite shocking that they're, fighting City, but I mean, I reckon if Liverpool had been on form, they'd still be in there. But the progression Arsenal have made, like, you can track it, in my opinion. I think you can track how it's been made. It's not too surprising. It's not like black magic when Burnley started getting top 6 results. Like, you're looking at Arsenal, and I think you can see every game they have played, they have got better, and they're fully all bought into Arteta's system. I mean, and yeah, we have to touch on the recruitment as well. I was banging the William Saliba drum last season. I was saying he's one of the best centre-backs in Europe, and that's definitely come to shine. I was actually looking at the stats again. Chelsea and Arsenal are averaging about the same amount of touches inside their own box for like opposition players. So they're both letting like teams get into their box about as often as each other, but Arsenal are just conceding far less in chances. And I think that kind of shows the players like Saliba, Gabriel, even though he gets maligned quite a bit, they're doing a very good job of protecting their goal and stopping players getting into space, whereas Chelsea is struggling a bit more in that aspect. So the answer to it is like how have they got so good? Where has it come from? I think if you go back and watch through last season, I think we all did go back through it. They probably wouldn't be looking too different to how they are now. I think the only thing is what's happened is they've just been a bit more fine-tuned, and they've got Gabriel Jesus up front, which was a big upgrade from Lacazette and Aubameyang. Jesus, he's only got 5 goals, but he's also got 5 assists. And sometimes he's moving through players in an absolutely ridiculous way. He's probably like the main danger man, not necessarily in terms of goals, but you just can't let him turn to face your goal and have options in front of him to play into.
Fair enough. We'll get into more detail on that, not in very soon. Let me get to Pice. For the first time in a very long time, we're going into this game between Chelsea and Arsenal in a somewhat different kind of, just position to what we usually go into it. Rather than, I'm not talking league position, I'm talking about just position of who's favourite. Now, obviously, Alex can disagree with this.
You really don't want to say you're underdogs, do you?
No. About what I'm about to say next. Without injuries, I still think we have a better squad than Arsenal. But obviously, we have all of our best players injured, which doesn't help. But still, tomorrow, Arsenal have got to be the favourites. Like, as much as we're at the bridge, as much as, it's a home game for us, if anyone's a favourite, it's Arsenal. It's certainly not us. But you also have to think about it. We were always the favourites over the last 2 years, and especially the last 5 years. We barely beat these lot. Like, I think the last time we beat them at Stamford Bridge was when Maurizio Sarri was manager, and that was like in 2019. Do you know how long ago that is? It's mental. We haven't beat them since, and then we were always the favourite. So maybe, now that we're for once not the favourite, that's finally when we're going to win. So, Pice, how do you go into this game? Do you clutch at that straw to give yourself optimism, or are you optimistic anyway? How are you feeling going into the game tomorrow, mate?
I'm not very optimistic at all, which you probably won't be surprised to hear. But I just think, if you look at Man United, the game, at home, I thought both teams were pretty average, but I thought we was going to play a lot better than we did. And I think that game ended in a draw. And I feel like tomorrow, if we want to win, first off, we need to defend very, very well, but we need to attack very, very well. We literally need to play like the perfect game, because I've been watching a lot of Arsenal this season, and they just, I don't know what it is, but like in like the first 20, 25 minutes, they are just insane. Like they start like how, like when prime Liverpool were about. They started games, they pressed you down, they hunted you, they created chances. They just kind of blew you away in the first 25, 30 minutes. That is what Arsenal have done all season. I think a couple of games where I've watched them where they've been in at half-time when it's draw, they've just about won. So can Chelsea stop the sort of onslaught that Arsenal are going to bring to us? Can we do that? Now, yeah, we can do, but how many mistakes do we make as well this season alone from just individual errors? Like, we've literally got to be perfect. We've got to play out their press like we've never done before. We need to put them on the back foot as well, because Arsenal got so much confidence. We need to make them feel like, oh, okay, Chelsea are serious here. Like, we need to actually make them defend properly, because I know what Alex is saying in terms of touches in their box, but I don't feel like when I've watched them, teams have really had a go at them. And first off, credit where it's due. That's because Arsenal are playing so good, and the way they press is magnificent. But I just feel like I don't know what it is. I just feel like Arsenal are still Arsenal, and I look at their team and I think, yeah, it's a good team on paper, but there's cracks there. Like we can beat them. We can beat them. It's just, do I have any confidence to see that happening with what we're going through right now? The whole sort of transition and players out, and not knowing what formation we're going to play or tactics. I mean, even Graham Potter said yesterday he's going to look stupid at times, but long term he thinks it'll work. Do I have confidence like right now?
Yeah, let's not look stupid tomorrow, please. We did that last week. That was enough for the next couple of months. I mean, look stupid again like in January. Like we've had.
Yeah, but like, do I have confidence right now, tomorrow? No, absolutely not. But Chelsea are Chelsea. We can pull off a big result. We can do it. We shouldn't be afraid of them. I just feel like we've got to play so well. The one thing I'm mainly worried about is Edouard Mendy against their high press. I think that could be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. And before we take a more of a deep dive into that, let's quickly kind of cover a bit of news that we should probably talk about. Ben Chilwell has now finally, took them bloody long enough, obviously because they needed the swelling to go down, has finally had the scan on his thigh, on his hamstring injury that he picked up against Dinamo Zagreb on Wednesday. And unfortunately, it is as bad as feared. And it is, if I'm using the correct terminology, I think it's a grade 3 hamstring tear. And that keeps you out between 8 and 12 weeks. So it could be up to 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Could be sidelined for. Obviously, when we missed the World Cup, gutting for him on a personal note. I guess when you look at it only from a Chelsea perspective, you're like, well, he's out for 2 to 3 months or 8 to 12 weeks. 6 of those weeks are covered by the World Cup. So I guess in terms of missing time for Chelsea, it's, well, the best time possible, really, other than potentially over the summer. But then you miss pre-season, so arguably even that's worse than now. But again, obviously from his perspective, missing the World Cup is obviously not nice. Although, knowing Gareth Southgate, judging from the Euros last season, he wouldn't have played him anyway. So maybe Chilwell would have just had another tournament where he's there, sits on the bench all the time, is wondering why he's not getting to play and then depressed after like it was last year. So maybe it's, a good thing. Who knows? No, it's not. But we're missing him. Kepa also has been confirmed will not play again before the World Cup with not the most serious, but still a foot injury. So it will be Edouard Mendy in goal from now until at least the World Cup. We'll see what happens after that. Pice, I'll start with you on this one. Chile. Now, he's not been incredible because we all know he's still kind of, rehabilitating from the ACL injury that he picked up last year. But he's still, like we've spoken about this a few times on this channel, haven't we, Pice? Where in terms of when we see Cucurella play, we're like, I wish we had Chilwell. And when Chilwell plays, we're like, I wish we had Cucurella, because they kind of have almost counter opposite strengths and weaknesses to each other. Not all the time, and certain maybe weaknesses they do share, but especially in strength. I feel Cucurella is really good on the ball. It's under pressure, like he doesn't lose the ball as much, blah, blah, blah. He's also aggressive in the way he defends. While Chilwell does the complete opposite. When you pressurize him, lose the ball all the time. Positionally, and being aggressive, he always just backs off every time someone's anywhere near him with the ball. But then when you go into the final third, Cucurella has so far done absolutely nothing. And when Chilwell is in the box, you get a decent cross. He's good for a goal because he's got a strong foot, like a strong shot on him. Like they almost do counter opposite things. So now we have Chilwell out, and Cucurella has played a lot of left centre back so far. And I'm personally expecting us to play a back 3, but we'll ask Alex that whether he thinks we should. Now we are basically forced to play Cucurella left wing work. So how do you feel, basically? Chilwell out for as long as he is. We'll be back towards the end of January, beginning of February, presumably. Obviously, things can take a bit longer. Things can recover a bit quicker. But what are your thoughts on the Chilwell injury, Pice?
Well, I think, as you said, like in terms of performance, I don't think it's like a massive loss. But I feel like the word is it's just like not ideal, because I think in January we're either going to have to bring back Martson, or I don't know. Like if it's 3 months,
because if Chile's back at the end of January, what's the point in bringing anyone?
Yeah,
back
but
in
bro, I think Chilwell's this is his second big injury. He's not looked good as it is with his ACL. This could literally just finish him off completely.
It's just a hamstring.
Yeah, but it's a serious hamstring injury. Like,
It's true.
I don't know, man. Yeah, there's got to be discussions around him soon, I think. But yeah, I don't know whether. That's why I say it's not ideal, because I don't know what we're gonna do now. Like, nothing's real set in stone yet, so it's kind of just another spanner in the works. Especially before, obviously, the World Cup, because we've got 3 big games. It's not like we've got like Arsenal and then like 2 lower end teams. Like, we've got City in the cup and then fucking Newcastle away. So possibly the hardest running you could have before a World Cup, to be honest, with Newcastle on their current form. So yeah, I mean, it's just not ideal. I don't know what we're gonna do. Cucurella left wing back, yeah, but
At
Koulibaly's
least
been
we
picking
have
up some
Cucurella,
injuries.
not Alonso anymore. So that's something. Makes the whole spending a lot of money on Cucurella, even though we had Chilwell, a bit less stupid, I guess. Even though Cucurella hasn't been, well, so far hasn't played like a £60 million player, that's for sure. But still better than Alonso.
That's why
I know some people will disagree. But
that's why it's not ideal either, because yeah, Cucurella left wing back is cool, but like you mentioned, his pros in terms of being on the ball and stuff, he's more technically secure. But I think, defensively, I don't think he's been great. And obviously going forward, when he gets near, the box, or, near the box on the sides, just doesn't really make the right option, I think. So yeah, it's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. And obviously, back-to-back seasons, we sit here and have Reece James injured long-term and Ben Chilwell out injured long-term. Like, what's our luck, man? Like, what is our luck? Lukey in the chat asked whether Zacharias, I think it was Lukey in the chat, wasn't it? Yes. Whether Zacharias' injury is bad. Zacharias is not injured. I think it was just cramping up mid-thigh towards the end of the Zagreb game. He seems to be absolutely fine. So obviously we have Fofana out and we have... Ed Sheeran has just a bit of a side hustle. You know, the guy just needs some extra cash, clearly.
You know what?
So
Every time I go on
your
stream, I get this. It's only yours as well, you know. It's
is
only
it?
yours
Then I feel bad. See, that's why I never really reacted to it. I was like, you're probably more.
Oh, no, bring him up. I love him. I love him.
You know, maybe you can just sing as well as Ed Sheeran, and maybe you're then in the wrong line of work if you can.
It's a nicer donation than the next one I imagine you're about to read out, which is trying to trick me into something.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. I do, before that, want to ask you about it, like from an England fan perspective. Obviously, you're not a Chelsea fan, so maybe the Chelsea perspective is a little bit less relevant to you. At least we do have Cucurella, I suppose. But England. Now, obviously, they have Luke Shaw, who I would presume is the starter anyway. And second choice is probably just Bukayo Saka, left wing back anyway. So I think Chilwell would have only been third choice anyway, in my opinion. But Gareth Southgate, I guess, could have thrown a spanner in the works that I didn't expect. But hey, do you think it's a drastic impact for England whether Chilwell is there or not? And do you think he would have played at all? Well, at all. But do you think he would have been involved much? Or would it have been like Shaw and Saka and then Trippier anyway, rather than ever Chilwell like at the Euros?
Yeah, I think it was more likely to be Shaw and then Trippier. I mean, obviously, Reece James is out, Kyle Walker's out. So it is looking a bit icky for Gareth Southgate's favourite position on a football pitch. But, I mean, I'm well known I in the fact that I don't mind Gareth Southgate. So I kind of back into
Fucking hell. Alex, get off the stream, bro.
Listen, we won't go on a tangent, but I was screaming at him to go before the Euros, and he got us to a final. So I'm not saying a bad one on him until he does something bad at a big tournament. Anyway, from the Chelsea perspective, though, I mean, we'll probably talk about this more as we talk about this game. But I do feel like this Arsenal match, if you lose, it could cause multiple things to explode. Really, I mean, Chilwell was injured after the Zagreb game, wasn't he? And he played that match, right?
Well, yeah, he got injured at the very, very end, like the last minute of the Zagreb game, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he was sprinting in the last minute. And it's like, the argument is, why did Chelsea play a full lineup, you know, when you could have benched? Was it necessary to have that, you know, that game to get everyone back after the Brighton result? Whereas Arsenal, they play players like El Neni and Lokonga. They had a couple of decent starters in their game against Zurich, but they largely bench people. And like also on the note of what we were saying about how Arsenal have improved, like how they've stuck by Arteta despite like the lows. I reckon if you lose against Arsenal, not only will we have people saying, for God's sake, we played a full lineup against Zagreb only to not even have an effect and lose to Arsenal, but you also have people saying, for God's sake, we're the team that keeps sacking managers, and we've just lost to the team that's backs their own manager. Look where they are. So from that sort of perspective, I think it's going to be quite interesting to watch the discourse online if you lose.
It will be, absolutely. It's a weird situation because you have these fans that obviously don't want Potter to be the one guy we all of a sudden don't sack. But if anything, if we lose to Arsenal, then that's proof why we shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? But hey, I guess you still never know for sure until you are in 2 years, 3 years from now, how well it actually worked. Because, well, that's the problem. 2 years ago, you weren't sure whether Arteta would actually get there in the end. At the moment, it looks like he has. At the same time, it's only November, so season's long. Everything can happen. They could even still finish outside the top 4 if things go really bad. Unlikely, of course, but theoretically, that could still happen. Now, it's an interesting one because the Chilwell didn't play against Brighton. So Chilwell was actually rested on the weekend. So that's why I feel like Chilwell playing against Zagreb, even had we overall rotated more, I feel like the Chilwell starting wasn't that much of an issue because, again, he didn't play. I think he might have come on, I'm not sure, but he certainly didn't start against Brighton. So that's more of one where it's just a bit unlucky. Like, I don't know, like it's such a bad hamstring injury. Either you see something before or you don't. And clearly they didn't, otherwise they wouldn't have played him, I assume. So then maybe it just happens against Arsenal instead. Does that at that point then make a difference? I don't know. Maybe it's just unlucky. It's a difficult one for me, these types of muscle injuries where it's so bad from nothing. I'm like, But is that just then unlucky? Was your muscle like overworked? Like what? I don't know what the reason is, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Now, Alex, before I ask you about like where Arsenal's strengths are and what Chelsea specifically need to watch out for, not just in terms of individuals, but like more tactically in certain positions of the pitch and stuff. Let me mention this super chat here by Araf. Appreciate the donation, mate. Appreciate it very much. And he says, question for EuroExpert. Mount creates a lot of chances, but wastes just as many to poor decision-making. Do you think Nkunku/Zakarian will improve this or can improve this? Now, number one, before you answer whether Nkunku and Zakarian could and will improve that, do you even agree with the general consensus that that's what Mount does? Because there's a lot of debate within Chelsea. Like some say, oh, he's a creator, but he's shit. Some say he's not a creator. But then those that say he's not a creator still mention obviously his creative stats. I'm like, well, if he's not a creator, then don't mention a creative stats then. Do you know what I mean? What's your perspective on this? Because again, from an England point of view, and Mount has played a lot of different positions. Obviously, under Thomas Tuchel, played pretty much always in the front three in the 3-4-3. Now has played a few more times as an 8 when Potter has actually allowed us to play as an 8. Wasn't always amazing there. At the same time, I'm like, well, obviously not. They spent the last 2 years playing as a forward. So now now that he does play as an 8 again, you need to give him a little bit of time to get used to playing as an 8 again as well. Like you can't just do one game and he's amazing again. Like obviously not. He hasn't played the position in 3 years. But still, what is your, I guess, just general opinions on Mount, and then take that on to Nkunku and Zakarian?
Yeah, glad we separated those two boys, because I think you tried to be like, Arif, maybe you didn't mean it, but in your question you tried to say, here's this fact, but answer this question. With the Mount thing, I know it's a very divisive issue in the Chelsea fan base, and what I will say is I'm a lot hotter on Mason Mount than I was last year, and especially the year before. I think his creativity actually has improved. I don't think it's to an Nkunku level or like a Kevin De Bruyne level or anything like that. I think it's still quite far off. I think his final ball's improved a lot. I think it's just his decision making, which in fairness, as Aaron has mentioned, that sometimes I think is lacking, that he'll miss quite a good opportunity to play a ball in, or play a ball through between defenders. And I think players like Timo Werner have suffered in the past with that, although Werner hasn't really helped himself. The other thing, I know you mentioned it there, it's interesting because you mentioned about Mount playing as an 8 and having to adapt to that. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I would have said that's the thing when I've watched Chelsea I've actually been most agitated by it, particularly earlier in the season. I can't remember exactly which games it was. It's definitely under Tuchel where clearly the plan was for a midfield 3 and Mount to be in midfield 3 like a 4-3-3. And he just completely abandoned any positional sense. And it looked like he was just completely abandoning the team to suffer. I think that's been my biggest issue with Mount so far. I'm not sure if that has improved as he's played a bit deeper down midfield under Potter. But
are you sure that was one of those games where we tried to play a 4-2-2 and no one understands why we're trying to do that?
No, it definitely was him trying to play midfield, because there was always this giant gap where the other midfielders left, expecting Mason Mount to kind of cover, and then the opposition team kind of walked through it. I wish I could remember
what
the
game
exact
that was.
game.
Honestly, I wonder. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I wonder which game it was. It was definitely one under Thomas Tuchel before he was sacked. But in terms of Nkunku as a Zakarian, had to almost mispronounce his name there, but I promise I know who he is, because he's someone I've been championing him for about a year. He plays with Dynamo Moscow. Very, very, very promising Russian wonder kid. Meant to be like the next big thing.
Let's call him
football.
Armenian, shall we?
Makes
Makes it more likely for us to sign him.
Oh, for goodness
no,
sake.
because that's what they're talking about. If we are to sign him, then he probably needs to change his passport, essentially, because no one's allowed to sign Russians, are they? So, and he has some sort of connection to Armenia, so maybe as an Armenian.
For goodness. Okay, the Dynamo player, we'll say that much. Can't even say their full team name. He is a very exciting footballer, but he's still really young. I don't think he's ready to step into the Chelsea team. I think that'd be like a Kante Chukwuemeka sort of deal. Nkunku, assuming he's arriving next year, his good thing is that maybe opposite to Mount, his decision making and awareness of space is exemplary. Like he's really good at either charging through defenders or playing a pass between them to find another teammate. And I don't think that's just down to Bundesliga tactics, as some people might say. I think that is just because he's a really smart, intelligent player. So, yeah, long story short, one of those two players, particularly Nkunku, will definitely improve Chelsea. But and on the Mount front, he's improving, but obviously he can get better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether Araf is trying to suggest that, but neither Nkunku nor Zakarian would actually play instead of Mount. So it would add to Mount rather than replace Mount. Again, I'm not sure if he was even insinuating that or not. But hey, sorry, Pies, if I'm leaving you out for so long, but I did want to get to asking Alex about where Arsenal are particularly dangerous. Now, we've all heard about and seen their press and how that's obviously an issue. And we've had certain games against Brighton where we just, for the life of us, could not deal with their press. Are you at all concerned that we won't be able to deal with Arsenal's press tomorrow as well, Alex? Or where, other than their press, do you also see their strength? Like, is it in the wide areas? Is it in central areas? Is it in midfield? Like, where do you really think we need to make sure we shut them down there to stop them? And also, therefore, once we stop them, we can then force our game upon them. But if we let them do their thing, that's going to be difficult, I guess.
Yeah, so definitely on the press, I'm particularly worried for you. I mean, dreadfully worried, especially with Edouard Mendy in goal. Who, I mean, I don't know if anyone's holding back on it yet. Maybe some people on Twitter are because they prefer Mendy over Kepa. Mendy building out the back is horrific. He's one of the most awkward goalkeepers I've seen in the Premier League. Like, I'd say as awkward as De Gea. So having him there is going to be a real detriment to Chelsea, I reckon. And especially, even if it's not just him, I watched your extended highlights against Brighton. You had Kepa in goal for the first half, yet you were so slow to every loose ball. It was quite shocking, if really, watching you play against Brighton and get completely undone by it. And yeah, Brighton, in fairness, we shouldn't have disrespect to Brighton. I reckon Arsenal's press isn't too many levels up above theirs. Brighton are a really good team this season as well. So I wouldn't be getting worried like, oh, we just faced a decent team. Now we're going to get faced by a ridiculous press. They're probably similar experience, but since you lost 4-1, still not good. In terms of Arsenal strengths, they're quite interesting in attack. I'd say if you've got a certain game plan and you've got the individuals to do it, I think you can pull it off where their left side is extremely fluid. You often see Jesus dropping off to the left, Martinelli coming through the centre, and then Ødegaard is kind of generally playing centrally, but also drift off to the right, just drift off a little to the right. And then Xhaka as well, coming from deep and making almost like overlapping runs like a centre back, a left back. Sorry, that's the really exciting thing you get to see when you watch Arsenal. I think it was against Spurs a couple of weeks ago, where they were just completely overloading Tottenham's back line with Xhaka making these deep runs. Whereas on the right, it feels very static. It feels very much like Ben White supports Saka and Saka does his thing. So in terms of Chelsea stopping that, I think you need to have a game plan where you're able to track their runners on the right-hand side and have your best defenders being able to double up on Saka on Chelsea's left-hand side, rather. I think that's how Arsenal will approach the game. And I think Martinelli and Jesus are really the danger pair. But on a final point on Arsenal as well, it's hard to pick out certain individuals despite the names on the team sheet. I mean, there's 8 players who scored at least 2 goals in the league this season. It's a crazy amount. It's very much shared across the squad. So you can't really target one player because they can harm you in a lot of areas.
Fair enough. And then on the flip side of that, like you spoke about in terms of how they're dangerous attacking-wise, do they have any sort of weaknesses, I guess, defensively? Like, do they struggle on certain things? Like, do you attack down the middle? Do you try to attack down the wing? Like, is it counter-attacking? Is it over-the-top balls? Like, is there anything? Or are you just like, well, they're just good, so you're going to need individual brilliance, basically?
Well, with Arsenal's press, I think the reason it's so good is because they almost, like, squat in the opposition's half. They set up in their shape in a 2-3-5, and when the opposition gets the ball, they step forward to the man and try and win the ball back. And if you can beat that press, then you have a chance. You're not just going to be able to play a ball through and run straight in behind because Arsenal are well organised enough to see that come in and defend against it. But I remember Manchester United, when they beat Arsenal's only Premier League defeat this season, that came after United attacked through a bit of a transition, and Arsenal's undermanned defence were pulled over to the left-hand side. Man United switched it to Anthony, who was in a lot of space and was able to tuck it away. So if you're going to defeat Arsenal, it will be through slick passing on counter-attacks and through their press, and making sure you don't slow the play down when you're in the final third. You don't wait for options. You take what you've got.
And then actually take the chances.
Yeah, which, Chelsea taking chances
Basically,
always
what you're
happens.
trying to tell me is we're screwed. Brilliant. Cheers. Appreciate the input. Appreciate it, as if it wasn't enough that I have to be depressed come 12 o'clock tomorrow. Now I'm already oppressed 12 hours earlier. More than that. But yeah, Pice, we will take it to the quiz in a second, but just your reaction to what Alex just explained to you there. Number one, does it correlate with what you would have said in terms of just your, just judgments, I guess, from watching Arsenal so far this season? And also, judging by what he said, do you think we can find a way to deal with that? Or are you now just even more concerned?
Yeah, I think the thing is with Arsenal is they've got like 4, 5, maybe 6 players that at least in a few games or consistently are performing to a near world-class level. And when you've got that many players performing that well, and then you've got the other individuals just playing good, then obviously that leads to a very, very good and successful team getting points in the league. So I think Jesus has been brilliant. I mean, some of his dribbling this season has just been like Messi-like, honestly, especially towards the earlier part of the season. I was like, how is he getting through this? Like, he was getting past like 3 or 4 people and then winning a foul. It was just a joke. He hasn't scored in a while recently, but that goes with Chelsea. He probably scores a brace tomorrow. But anyway, Martinelli, I think, has come on leaps and bounds. I thought he used to be good, but this season there's just something's happened with him. Like his end product, he's just been really, really good, and he's so hard to stop on the dribble. I think Saliba has been brilliant. I think Gabriel has been good, but he does have a mistake in him. I think that's the one player Chelsea should kind of not. I guess target, but he's a good defender. But I feel like if there's a player in their team that could do something wrong, it would be him. And I think a few Arsenal fans have been saying that. And then you've got Zinchenko, Saka. Like they've got their team just plays really well as like a unit, attacking unit. And I think the biggest thing that's impressed me this season has been their midfield. Granit Xhaka has been unbelievable. He's scoring goals, but he's just playing to such a high level. And then obviously you've got Partey. So yeah, a very difficult game for us. And I think hearing Alex saying that slick passing is gonna basically unlock them is something that just makes me even more worried, because when do we ever really put realistically put 3, 4, 5 passes together that we're like, wow. I mean that attacking pattern that we saw against who was it, where Aubameyang missed the chance, Salzburg. I think that was the best bit of football we played in like 2 years. So do you think we're going to do that twice tomorrow, at least once? I don't know. The odds are against us, but I kind of like it in a sense that we're, I don't expect us to win tomorrow. So I feel like, if that, I don't know, almost like siege mentality. If Potter can get that into the players, look, don't let them mug us off. I feel like we could surprise some people, but we're going to have to play so well. And I just think with the position we're in, trying to learn the manager's way of playing, the tactics, the lineup, the injuries, it's all against us. So yeah, it's going to be incredibly difficult to win.
Yeah, the injuries most sadly don't help. I mean, I'm not sure how many serious injuries Arsenal have, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but we've got a lot. Reece James is out, Chilwell is out, Kante is out, Fofana is out, Koulibaly is kind of half fit. He just played his first game in nearly a month anyway in the last game, and had to be taken off after now. I assume he can start and play the whole game tomorrow, but still not perfect. Kepa is obviously out. Is anybody else injured that I'm forgetting now?
I mean, Laurenz, Reece is the big one for this game specifically, because Martinelli's pace and speed is just, and power, to be fair. But when he's running, if there's a defender you want against him, it's Reece James. And I got to hope Aspi doesn't play tomorrow, but the only alternative really is Ruben there, and I don't, if you
is that going to be any better, like on transition, defensively, positionally?
If you play Ruben, you're going to have to instruct him to actually be a defender and almost not like a right wing back. So I don't. That's the one that I'm really worried about. If there was an individual, duel battle.
Sorry to break it to you, but it's going to be Aspi.
I got to hope he gives, he lays off him, because if he gets close to him, he's getting spun 50 times.
He just needs to be helped, like whether it's by the right centre mid or whether it's by the right centre back, Aspi will need to be helped. And because that's, Alex touched on it there, like how fluid, I guess they are, you said, on the left side. Having Reece James or not having Reece James to deal with that is I don't know, it's like well, I don't know, having a hand or not when you're trying to flip and pick something up from the floor. Like, it's literally like could not be a bigger difference. Like, it's huge. Bloody Reece James. Like, I mean, I believe he's the best right back in the world, and the guy's 22. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. But hey, it's about time we give Alex a chance to mug us off a little bit. So before we went live, I asked Alex, well, we usually do like a little quiz in these previews. And I was basically just trying to get a grasp. Does Alex want to get involved? Does he want to ask the questions answer the question as well? Does he want to ask the potential? And he said, well, why don't you just let me take you on? And basically, if myself and Pies get less answers right than Alex does, then we're going to be absolutely in the mud. So let's hope we can find a way to not be absolutely in the mud. But let's get into this quiz. As you can see, again, made by One It Twice, who, of course, is Bertram. Shout out Bertram. He's having a good old weekend in Hamburg. So, we're not at all jealous of that. But, have a good time, mate. Appreciate the quiz as always. And let's get into this one and start with the first question. What do the following players all have in common? And I assume he's going to talk about the ones that we can see on the bottom, which is Alex, Drogba, Michael Essien, and of course, Hernan Crespo. Easy one to start us off. Oh, you didn't see that yet. I thought he was going to ask the question, like name the answer. Anyways, I didn't see it yet.
We didn't see any answers.
Good. So what do they all have in common then? I presume they all scored against Arsenal, but that's maybe a bit simple, isn't it?
I reckon. Wait, no, I was going to say first goal. I'm pretty sure Drogba scored against Palace, didn't he? So,
yeah.
Can I go?
They all scored. I mean, go on.
Do we just give our answer?
Basically, if you have one, like sometimes we get options, like multiple choice. Sometimes we don't. It's like we don't know what's coming.
They all scored winners against Arsenal.
They all scored winners against Arsenal.
Essien there's the outside of the boot shot. 2007.
Right.
Alex scored that free kick. Drogba obviously scored like 10 winners against Arsenal. No idea if Crespo did, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. He didn't score that many goals for us, so who knows.
Say that again.
All right, cheers, Alexa. Calm down.
I don't know why it got called in there.
It's probably because you called Alex, bro.
Oh, yeah, good point.
You should get yourself a different sound. You should not have Alexa.
Well, it's called. Well, I can't. It's not called Alexa, so I don't know how it's gone there. Oh well.
Oh,
anyway,
fair enough. Winner against Arsenal. I don't know. I'm going to say they're all, because this is obviously at Stamford Bridge. I'm going to be even more specific. Scored winners at Stamford Bridge against Arsenal. Pice, anything? Any shout you have? It's a difficult one where we don't have the answers given. Or like as in multiple choice.
No, I reckon it's something that you guys have just said. So there's no point in me trying to think of something obscure.
Fair dues. All right, let's see then. Easy one to start us off. They've all scored screamers against the... they just scored screamers. Okay. Well, I don't remember the Fresco screamer. Fair enough. I mean, they did all score screamers, to be fair, but how are we supposed to know that's what they've got?
Woolwich Wanderers.
Woolwich Wanderers is quite funny to me, man. I saw, when I accidentally clicked to the slide, I saw something about Woolwich in red, and I was like, what is he talking about flipping Woolwich all of a sudden? But anyways, let's get to the next question. See, here we have some answers. That's quite useful. Chelsea are known to take Arsenal's best players while sending our older players the other way to see out the rest of their career. The question is, what is the combined age of the following players by the time they signed for the Gunners? In David Luiz, Petr Cech, and Willian. Okay, let's think about this. I would have said Willian was about 32 by the time he joined Arsenal. David Luiz would have been 31, I reckon. Maybe 32. And Cech would have been maybe 34.
I'm going to go 97.
I'm going to go 86.
I'm going to go 102.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually.
See how it goes.
I don't know.
I personally think you're right with the 97, but
Oh no!
Yeah,
I think that's right. I think I've miscalculated.
97.
Yeah, I think it's between 97 and 102. I mean, there's only 5 years between.
I won't change my answer, but it's probably 97.
Yeah, I think it's 97 as well, if I'm honest. Yeah, 97. Fair play, Pies. Fair play. I mean, to be fair, Alex and myself, we did say you're probably right. But there you go. I mean, I would have loved to know the exact years, but maybe Cech was just 33 and the other two were both 32.
I don't know how I did that, because I went, right, William was about 31, Luiz about 34, so Cech was about 34 as well. So you add that up, that's 86. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's why you do tactics and not maths, bro.
Oh, dear.
For sure. New thing. All right, I had no idea a new thing was coming. Here you go. The Chelsea way. I hope now when the next click, there's not some answer there because I don't know what the question is yet, but we'll see. Which ex-Chelsea and Arsenal player boasts, I love it, boasts his career path? Monaco, Arsenal, Barcelona, and Chelsea. And then he retired at that 2004, did he?
Oh, that's before my time.
Wait, that's a lot of maps for Monaco.
That is a lot of appearances for Monaco. Who would have been that? Is it got to be
Arsenal and Chelsea? Barca.
Yeah, Monaco.
I'm a bit stumped here. I feel like I should.
Well,
know
look at the goals to apps. It's got to be a defender, the starters.
Oh, at least a midfielder, yeah.
Maybe a shit defensive midfielder or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's defender. It's got to be a defender. I don't know. I was born in 2001.
It's actually quite a lot if you're a defender. So, but my God, am I stumped here? I should not be.
Is the only reason I know the icon on FIFA the French defensive midfielder.
Did Petit ever play for Chelsea?
He did.
Yeah. See, I had it in my mind somehow. I was like,
Emmanuel Petit.
Yeah. Good shout. I don't know.
Arsenal fans definitely do make way too much of a fuss about Petit, considering he's only played there for 3 years. But sure.
Yeah, but then that's a very Arsenal thing. So that's why it's Petit.
Yeah,
sure, it's got to be Petit, surely. I can't think of anyone else.
Very good shout.
I mean, I had no idea Petit played for Barcelona, if I'll be perfectly honest with you. But hey, we'll see whether we're right. Emmanuel Petit.
That is a banger from Alex. I got a lot of
fair play. He's called EuroExpert for a reason. We were talking about Monaco and Barcelona, not Chelsea, was he? No, fair play. All right, let's move on. The Pride have an extensive rivalry against the Armory, having played 205 games against each other. But who is your time top goal scorer in this fixture? Bobby Tambling, Didier Drogba, Robin van Persie, Thierry Henry, Frank Lampard, or Dennis Bergkamp?
In this fixture?
Yeah, between Chelsea and Arsenal, yeah.
Frank Lampard.
Do you know this or are you guessing?
I'm guessing. Hands are off the keyboard. You'd hear me.
It's got to be Drogba, surely. Surely it's Drogba.
I think Drogba scored more against Arsenal than Lampard did, but I'm thinking
the fact that he's got like Bobby Tambling in there makes me think it's him.
Let me explain my logic. Drogba in my head would have more. However, one, that's too obvious to me, and two, Drogba, he only spent, was it 6 years at Chelsea in the end? 2005?
8 initially and then another one, so 9.
8 years. Maybe it is Drogba. I was thinking Lampard spent majority of his career at Chelsea, so maybe he's just collected more goals. That's the only reason I'm going Lampard.
I mean, it could just be Henry,
I don't
was
think
he in the Prem for long enough to be that?
Might be.
Because
Van Persie scored a lot against us, but I don't know if it's quite that much.
Van Persie, surely. Can't be Van Persie. See, I'm going to say Bobby Tambling. Bobby Tambling. Purely for the fact that if that's true, it's just mugs of Arsenal fans because they say we only exist since 2003. So how is Bobby Tambling like leading goal scorer? Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm going to say Bobby Tambling. Sorry?
In before it's Henry.
It's probably Henry. I think it's between Drogba and Tambling, but I'm going to say Tambling. Pice, what are you going to pick?
I'm going to say Drogba.
Okay. Alex, you going to stick with Lampard or are you going to throw Henry in there? Or?
Might as well.
Fair enough. Let's see then. It is, of course, apparently. Didier Drogba. Now, fair enough. It's not Bobby Tambling, but at least it is not an Arsenal player, so we'll bloody take that one. Why did we even question that? Everyone knows that Arsenal were petrified of Didier Drogba. Now, there's got to be a reason for that. Do you know what I mean? But hey, here we are. Arsenal have played 6 European finals in their history. How many have they won?
Number 4.
I think we might have 2 correct answers here, I think we might do. Unless they've won something which I don't know about. And if they did, why did you include this question here, Bash? Come on. So I'm going to say it's either 1 or 4. meaning either 0 or Arsenal. I'm going to just say Arsenal because, I don't know, it feels most fitting. Alex, I mean, do you think they've won one or not?
No, it was 0.
There you go, guys.
The thing is, though, right? I don't know whether he's including like 1960 Cup Winners' Cup and all that crap, because that's the European final, technically.
But did they win that?
Well, I don't know, because I read up the other day that Spurs won one, so...
Yeah.
I don't think Arsenal have. I can go for every European Cup winner as well. I know Arsenal are nowhere near that.
Yeah,
0.
that's what I'm
0
thinking
then.
as well.
I'll go 0.
And also the fact that he put 0 and Arsenal as an answer, like, surely can't be an actual
He's just
answer.
trolling.
Yeah, exactly. One major final win. Well, to be fair,
Wow.
in 1994. There you go. Whatever that final was. Let's see that. Let's see it. Well, Bertram, you're now on Fraud Watch just for including that question in here. But let me see this. Arsenal, Parma, 1994. European Cup Winners' Cup final, apparently.
Oh, yeah, nah.
Still not the Champions League, so who cares?
Exactly. Arsenal won 1-0 with a goal coming from Alan Smith. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Any Arsenal fans here? I hope you had a good time. Finally, golden goal scorer. So basically, Alex, what you need to do here is you take a look at who scored the other 2 goals in this case, and then you see the picture, and the guy that's celebrating here is the guy you have to figure out.
Why does he always go for the really old games?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Bertram,
any
you need to like go a bit more, you know, like 2008-ish.
Yeah,
This is like 2000 and what?
4, 5.
4, yeah, something like that.
2004. I've literally no idea. I'm gonna guess. Okay, let's try and think. He's a rogue Chelsea player back then.
Who even is this goalkeeper?
So that's the player there, yeah?
CO?
Yeah.
Does that say CO?
It says something CO, yeah.
He's quite tall, you know.
He is quite tall, yeah. He is quite tall.
Makes you want to think John Terry or something. I'm not going to say John Terry, but I'm thinking.
Could this be the 2004-3-4 season where we're the only team that beat Arsenal because we beat them in the Champions League quarterfinals? Could this be that game at Highbury?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
Well, yeah, no, you can't know that. That's true.
I've got a feeling I know who this is.
Well then, Pice. Spit it out.
I think it's Lampard.
Lampard's fucking taller. You know what? I'm going to go with my gut. I'm saying it's John Terry.
The way his arms are out like that, I don't know. I feel like it's Lampard. Like a bit of passion to the Chelsea fans, like come on then, sort of thing. I don't know.
I'm going to say Ijaga Johnson, but
I'm just saying Lampard because he scored a shit ton of goals for us. So I feel like, especially back in those days, and he's, you know.
I'm doing my usual thing. I'm trying to look at the boots. Okay, they had Adidas boots. Who had Adidas boots? But this is so long ago, I don't flip and know who had which boots. So it's completely unuseful. You know, a few weeks ago on this, we had like Andre Schürrle scoring. I was like, well, and someone was like, could it be Hazard? Right? Well, no, these are Adidas boots. Hazard do not wear Adidas boots. So
someone said in the comments, Wayne Bridge, it'd be really funny if this is a Wayne Bridge double, a spectacular.
Ooh. It is because I know Bridge scored in that game. I knew this because I think that is the game. But I had never heard of Bridge scoring 2. But he could have scored 2. Actually, I didn't see the game at the time. It was bloody 2004. I'm going to stick with Good Johnson. No, it can't be Good Johnson because you can see there the name will be.
I think you actually need to give an answer. Me and Pice have committed quite early.
Yeah, it's true. Aye. I'm struggling here, I'm telling you. Because I could just copy either of you because I think you both made valid shouts, but I don't want to be boring, innit? So now I'm thinking of who could be a valid shout that's not those two, innit? You know what? I'm going to say Wayne Bridge again, which is unlikely. No, it can't be because then it wouldn't be. I'm
you got.
I'm just going to say Wayne Bridge, okay? I'm just going to say Wayne Bridge, even though I know it's wrong. It is Lampard.
Yes.
Oh, well played. Well played.
Oh, because he always used to do that. Like, he always used to put his arms out, didn't he? So that's why I thought him.
I did think it was Lampard, but I didn't want to be boring. But obviously, I'm going to say that now on time. But hey, here we are. Well, it wasn't Wayne Bridge twice. It wasn't Ijaga Johnson. But here we are. It was Frank Lampard. Fair play, Pice. At least on this one, Alex didn't mug us off. Which one did you have the really good shout? I know Petit, to be fair. Okay, fair play. All right, then.
That's 30 or Alex, aren't you?
There you go. Fair play, fair play. Unfortunately, Shane was not Carvalho. I'm pretty sure Carvalho had not signed for us yet, if this is the game I'm thinking about, but we'll see. All right, then. I think it's about time we talk about how Chelsea should, at least in our opinion, line up. And how I think I'm going to do this is basically me and Pice talk through it, and then Alex says, like, basically, well, you're stupid, or I would agree. And if, or just, be a bit kind in the middle where you're like, well, I would do this instead. But the first question I will start with Alex on. Do you think we should be playing a back three or a back four?
Oh, if you only got Azpilicueta right back, I think your only option is a back three, is it not?
I mean, yep.
I mean, unless it's not necessarily that you can't play a back four, but I mean, you're playing Azpilicueta as a lone fullback against Gabriel Martinelli. That is a very brave decision.
Exactly. It is true. It is true. Okay, so Papayas, I assume you're also in agreement for the back three, yeah?
Reluctantly, yeah, but we are going to play it.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to play it. Absolutely. We must do. And then one last question before we, do this more individual stuff. Do you still think, even though we're playing a back three, Alex, do you think we should be playing a midfield three? Maybe to counter what you touched on earlier in terms of those runs by Xhaka. If we only have two midfield, maybe that makes it more difficult to make sure we stop those. So should we be playing like a 3-5-2 with a three-man midfield? Or do you think we should be doing 3-4-3 type thing?
I think that's a good idea. I think I would start with a midfield three. And then, just as Passes touched on, Arsenal start games really strongly. So if you can contain them for the first half and then build some confidence, maybe that's when you can begin to build out and go a bit more, attacking focused, or even better, if you get a goal, lock it down. More. Yeah, lock it down. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sounds about right. I wouldn't be too much against it. Now, obviously, it depends on how we're going to deploy those wing backs. Imagine Potter goes for like Sterling or Pulisic at wing back against Arsenal. That would be mental. But hey, I also didn't expect certain other things Potter's done so far already. So who knows? Who knows? All right, then. Now, one thing we do know is going to be Mendy in goal because Kepa is unfortunately out injured. One other question. Now, we decided on a back three already anyway. But in general, Alex, do you think a back three is better to play out from and beat the press, or do you think a back four suits that more?
Oh, I think a back three is good for beating the first line of the press. Like it's very hard to be pinned back with a back three, if that makes sense. Like you always have a first option. It's just once you get to the next line, once you're trying to get in the final third, you have one less option there, so it's a lot trickier.
It is true. Now, one thing we've done, what was the game? I think against Salzburg away when we won last week. What we did is obviously we play Cucurella left centre back, which obviously is a bit different now. But what we actually did is we kind of used Kepa to build a back four to build, even though we started in a back three, which was very interesting. Obviously, we're not going to do that now that we have Mendy. But I thought it was very interesting, the fact that we even tried that. And we obviously won't do that because Cucurella won't be playing left centre back. But this one is also pretty straightforward, right? Isn't it, Pice? Because, we only have three available centre backs. So it's got to be those three, isn't it? Or would you throw a Cucurella at left centre back and play somebody else at left wing back?
No, Cucurella at left wing back for sure.
There you go. So then Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, and Chalobah as the back three, yeah?
Yep, pretty straightforward. I'd be shocked if it was anything else.
As would I, mate. As would I. It has to be that. And now that we have Koulibaly back, even though he has a little bit of rashness in him, I'm already filled with more confidence. I'm like, okay, at least a little bit more defensive stability, a little bit more just strength, power, not just Cucurella, who always looks like he's about 5'2", because I feel like his hair makes him look shorter. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like his long hair makes him look shorter than he even is. And that is enough problem in itself. Now, Alex, aside from the fact that we don't have any other centre-backs to play, because obviously all the others are injured, why am I coughing all the time? Do you think that back three is capable of dealing with Arsenal?
The one that worries me is Chalobah. That's purely because from what I saw against Brighton, I thought he was the one who really stood out. It was only the extended highlights, but the extended highlights of Chalobah were not great. So he's the one I'd be a little worried about. But I've been on this channel before and spoke how good Chalobah can be. So yeah, it's a decent backline, in my opinion. I think it's midfield where it'll be quite interesting, where you could win or lose the game.
Absolutely. It's a weird one because I agree against Brighton. Chalobah certainly wasn't great. But otherwise, he's actually been, since obviously getting to play since Fofana got injured, he's actually been very good. If anything, one of our better players. It's an interesting one because against Brighton, obviously, we used those two not real wing-backs as wing-backs with Sterling on the left, Pulisic on the right. So presuming that we're not going to do that again tomorrow, that should already make Chalobah's afternoon a little bit easier when he doesn't have Pulisic in front of him who, well, isn't tracking back enough, even though Pulisic tried more than Sterling did anyway. But still, should still make his afternoon a little bit easier. But obviously, you did touch on it earlier, how good, obviously, their side are. I mean, at all, before we move on to the wing-backs, even though they're basically set in stone already anyway, do you think at all we should be considering, like, switching things around at the back in terms of, I don't know, putting Koulibaly on the right just to, like, maybe put the better defender to where their better attackers are? Is that at all a shout in consideration? I personally wouldn't do it because I'm like, okay, Chalobah is used to right centre back now and Koulibaly is more used to left centre back. So I just leave it rather than throwing new positions at them. But is it something to consider at least?
No, if this was a lesser team than Chelsea, I think you might. But while you've got to prepare for Arsenal's attack and while they're probably the better team at the moment, you can't go too far into pragmatism. Like, you've got to remember that you're a Champions League level side, so you've got to play your own game to a certain extent.
Fair dues. All right then. Well, Pice, you've already said Cucurella has to be a left wing back. Now, you don't really want Aspie at right wing back. But, I mean, do you really want to pick Ruben in this case?
I actually would, just because I think with his physicality, I think he could, like, I'd rather go for someone that can bully Martinelli than someone that can't run. So I'm gonna go with Ruben.
Okay.
Alex is laughing. It's true. Aspie can't run, man. Like, he was getting done by Orsic. I don't want him playing. If Aspie plays, I think we've lost.
But that you got to be. Orsic is one of the fastest players I've ever seen. Doesn't matter whether he plays.
Martinelli is absolutely rapid.
No, he
Martinelli
is. I think
rapid.
Orsic is faster than Martinelli personally. I would.
Nah, I don't think so.
No,
he can't run.
He can't run. Aspie should not play.
Shit, man. I love how Marcus Alonso has gone and Azpilicueta has replaced him. He is that guy.
I mean, and whose fault is that? Bloody Thomas Tuchel. We decided to keep bloody Aspie. No one wanted that. Just get rid. We've wanted to get rid for years. Get rid, man. Like, at least that wing back. And now the problem is we didn't sign any other wing back, so he's the wing back backup, isn't he? So it's a bloody nightmare. But I'm still not sure whether I wouldn't rather pick Aspie, because I'm also like, it depends on who we play midfield, because, well, it's going to be Jorginho, Kova, and Mount, isn't it? But then we have no physical strength in there. So is that any better?
Is there a gamble to try Zakari in this game?
Maybe we'll get to that when we get to the midfield. But you know what? I honestly don't know. So Alex, why don't you help me with your perspective? I didn't see the screen, but you were apparently laughing at the shout for Ruben. Do you think that's a crazy shout? Would you just go for Aspie? What would you do?
No, I was not laughing at the shout for Ruben. I was laughing at Pice saying about Azpilicueta saying he can't run very angrily. That's what I was laughing at. Not Ruben Loftus-Cheek. The thing is, against Martinelli, if Chelsea want to sit back, then I think Azpilicueta is a good option. But if you want someone to get up and down, if you want Chelsea to try and be a bit more bold in this game, then maybe Loftus-Cheek's the better option. I guess it's just a question of, it's not a case where Loftus-Cheek will get spun by Martinelli. I think he's someone who can physically match it, but if he's just going to get caught out of position. And I think what you can't, with Jesus and Martinelli linking up over there, it's not just a simple case of them swapping positions. Like, you don't want to be giving them any large space in and around the box on that left side. So that's the only thing what makes me kind of lean to Azpilicueta. As long as you're not telling him to run, you're telling him to kind of stay back a bit, then maybe you're in a more manageable position.
See, for me, it's a case of, obviously, Loftus-Cheek played right wing back away at the Bernabeu, where we were 3-0 up and were minutes away from doing one of the most incredible turnarounds in Champions League history. But when Ruben did that, behind him wasn't Chalobah, behind him was Reece James. And that is a gargantuan difference. And that is no disrespect to Chalobah. Chalobah is very good and has been very good this season. But he's no Reece James. And that is a very big difference. Also, in my logic, when we kind of, or at least when I asked Alex about it, I'm like, I kind of agreed, so I put it on screen. But the midfield three, my logic behind that is exactly this: that I put Aspie at wing back, and then when Aspie is, because he will still need to bomb forward because he's a wing back, then this player, whoever that will fill, probably be Mount, needs to track that run and just needs to fill that gap when Aspie can't. And I feel like when you have Ruben and Mount here, you're like, I think they're going to stand in each other's way. I think if you play Ruben at right wing back, I think you need to play a midfield 2, not a midfield 3, personally. Because he's still, even though he will play wing back, like if he would be picked there, he is a wing back. He would still have that midfielder in him. So he would still act like, do you know what I mean? I still think, because Mount always then does this one, I still think it's, I'm not sure. Do you see what I mean with that, Alex? Or what do you think?
Yeah, it's tricky. I guess my issue would be I would not have wanted to play Mount in the midfield 3 at all. If I could play a midfield 3 that doesn't include Mount, then I think you're golden there. But if you guys are nailed on sticking with Mount, then maybe what you're saying is right. And you're
maybe not from our perspective as much, but from Porter's perspective, most definitely. What it will be in the midfield 3, I don't know. But he will most definitely start, that's for sure. Like, there's no way Mount doesn't start. Mount started every but one game so far on the Potter, I'm pretty sure. So I would be very surprised if it happens now. But I'm still not 100% sure. I'll just cop out and we just put both on screen. But it's a tricky one because both have their, just to help Chalobah, Aspie is it. But at the same time, you know what? I'm not going to cop out. Alex laughed at me. I can't handle it. I'm gonna back my boy Ruben. We're going to go for Ruben. Unfortunately, Alex, you came here as EuroExpert and we disregarded you anyway.
It's okay. You're going to lose. It's fine.
No, exactly. Especially if we are the managers, we're most definitely going to lose. So, that's for sure. So thankfully, we're not. And if we do lose, we don't have to blame ourselves, but Graham Potter. So, it's always fun being a fan, not the actual manager. It's always easier. But yeah, I'm going to pick Ruben, but as you could have just seen in the last 5 minutes, I really don't know if I actually want to pick Ruben. Pice then. Alex hinted at that he wouldn't include Mount in this midfield 3. Number one, what would you think about that? And number two, would you also do that? Leave Mount out?
Well, I probably wouldn't, but at the same time, what you were saying in terms of like that player 7 needs to make sure they track back down that side. I think the one thing that Zakaria did very, very well last time was tracking back. How quick he was. That attack they had where he came back from midfield and won the tackle from behind. We haven't seen that in years. So maybe
we haven't seen that since last time Kante was fit, because Kante does that all the time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a physical presence. Kante's not a physical presence. Yeah. So, yeah, I think
he's barely even a presence at this point.
That player 7, if you want to play like how, or you think the tactics should be like that, then that probably has to be Zakaria. But I don't think
would you not do a midfield 3, bro? I didn't really ask your opinion on that. Would you play a normal 3-4-3?
I don't like what we've got up here now because I think it's too defensive. But I think at times it might have to be like this. I don't know, to be honest.
Do you not think if you play in midfield 2, Arteta will be licking his lips, like thinking of what he could do to you in the same way?
Especially with who our midfield 2 is. Like when we have Kante playing midfield 2, but without Kante,
that's why I want Zakaria to play.
Arsenal playing scares me,
That's why I want Zakaria to play because his physical presence matches straight up with Partey and Xhaka. So.
But he couldn't even do 70 minutes against Zagreb. Is he going
maybe
to camp up after 40 minutes against Arsenal? Like,
I don't know.
I feel like if you play midfield 2, can Arsenal not exploit in the same way United did for like the first 30 minutes? I watched that full Chelsea United game, and you were torn apart with a midfield 2. Like, I've not seen a team get
that
wrecked.
Was one of the, that first 36 minutes until we made that sub. I honestly physically cannot remember the last time I saw Chelsea play that bad for 36 minutes.
But the thing is, it wasn't even to say like you were individually bad. It's just like you didn't stop.
We were just dominated and we just couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like.
And the one thing that annoyed me at that Man United game, because I was at that game, was that we didn't play. See, I thought Broly was going to be perfect for that game just because of his physical presence up top. Because every time we tried to play at the back, and we did it consistently, it was obviously an instruction. We were so hell bent on playing out of their press, and Man United's press was really good, and we couldn't do anything against them. With that, we hardly went forward in that half because we couldn't do anything getting out of their press and going forward. So if we have the same issues tomorrow, then, I mean, what do you think, Alex? Arsenal's press against Man United? I mean, I thought their press was very, very good. They had Anthony, I think. Who else played for them that game? I think it was Rashford and Sancho. Their press that game, we couldn't pass at the back. It was ridiculous. I think sure we played a back three that game as well. It was awful.
We played a back three, but a midfield two.
Yeah,
and it's
look, keep the midfield three on here, because I do think we're going to need it. And I think, to be honest, I don't think we need to debate too much. As much as we want Courage to play, I think it's obviously going to be Jorginho, Mount, and Kovacic.
Yeah. And my personal logic why, even though Alex says maybe just don't play Mount, my logic for that is that when we do attack, Mount is at least used to playing like in forward areas. So then whether it's Arsenal slowing down a bit after maybe 25, 30 minutes or whatever it may be, if that's Mount can just do that one. And we basically have a 3-4-3, which we played for 2 years on the tour. So it's like just an auto switch, even though you have the identical players. So that's why, to me, that kind of makes sense. And like Mount has, lacks certain things, but one thing he does have is an engine. And if he runs enough, and against Arsenal, I'd expect him to run enough, then I think that would make the most sense. I mean, Alex, you said you would drop Mount. So who would you drop him for then? Because I assume you're still going to pick Jorginho and Kovacic because we don't have that many others available.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess that's the issue. I'm not sure there is anyone else other than Mount, right? If Zakaria can't play, then
Gallagher maybe.
I feel like, I can't comment on Gallagher. I've not watched enough of him, but maybe that's an idea. But I'm not saying from dropping Mount from the starting 11, but just from what I've seen of Mount this season, I just don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable having him in a midfield three. And especially what you've just said as well, like, okay, maybe he can push up into a front three. I feel like that's the exact point Arsenal will be looking to exploit when he looks to push up and Chelsea look to transition to midfield two. That's when they can go, okay, go. We've now got a bit of extra space. So that's the issue where I'm a bit more like, maybe it's
Gallagher would do the same thing. Like, if any, Gallagher's kind of just Mount's backup for the most part this season, really. So he would probably do the same thing anyway. With maybe a tad more intensity in some things, but then a tad of a worse touch in other things. That's kind of like, I don't know. But if you didn't want to play, like, would it just be Zakaria who you'd play if we were to just pretend like he's fully fit?
If he was fit, I'd be going Zakaria, because then what we said is you want to play for Arsenal's press and you want to play for it quickly. You've got Zakaria and Kovacic, who are two really good ball carriers who can really like blast through it in a sense. And two people who will be able to get back. But like from all we said about Mount, I'm sure Potter's recognised this. So perhaps he will play this midfield three, and perhaps he has a plan to.
And just tell him, don't go forward too much, mate.
Well, even then, maybe you will allow Mount to go forward. Maybe that's when Loftus-Cheek comes inside. Chalobah pushes wide.
Pushes inside, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, I'd like, obviously, Mateo Kovacic, just to clarify for everybody, obviously, he wasn't involved against Zagreb. He did miss a couple of days of training, or 1 day of training. I'm not sure how many exactly it was. But he is back in training, so he is in contention for the game. So I expect him to start, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the guys that's subbed off. I wouldn't mind if it's Zakaria that comes on instead, like to bring on some real power in midfield. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not technically the best, is he? He's no Kovacic technically, but it could very much so, depending on how obviously the game has gone until that point. It could add something certainly very different, which Arsenal will have by that point then gotten used to how we're doing things midfield. And if we then bring on a Zakaria for Kovacic, I'm purely saying Kovacic because maybe Kovacic can't play the 90. I don't know. Maybe also for Mount, but then I would expect us to, at the end of the game, try to win the game rather than early in the game. So that's why then bringing Zakaria on for Mount would be kind of counterproductive in that logic, in my opinion. So maybe for Kovacic, then you add some power. I don't know. It's going to be... I'm very, very intrigued by what Graham Potter does about this, because obviously he didn't use him one bit at all, not a single second. Most of the time he wasn't even on the bench so far this season, the Zakaria, ever since Graham Potter took over. And obviously he was never involved under Thomas Tuchel, because I don't think he traveled to Zagreb in that game, which was obviously Thomas Tuchel's in the end last game. So until Wednesday, Zakaria had not seen the day of light, really. So will that performance have been good enough to change Potter's mind? Because unless Zakaria trains really bad, surely Potter should have seen these things in training already. But he still decided to not pick him until we had a game that was dead rubber. So that makes me very intrigued as in what's going to happen with Zakaria moving forward. I'm very intrigued, but I guess this is probably the midfield three would have to pick. Now, let's get to the front three then, because we have a lot of players that start a lot of games for Chelsea that we haven't picked yet. We haven't picked Kai Havertz. We haven't picked Aubameyang. We haven't picked Sterling. We haven't picked, I guess, theoretically Christian Pulisic. I guess it's those four. And even if you want to go a bit more rogue, Amanda Broja, because they do press, they do leave gaps in behind. Who's a fastest striker? Broja. So maybe on that logic, Broja. But Broja didn't even get a start against Zagreb when it was a dead rubber game. So he's not starting against Arsenal, let's be honest. But one of still the main three of Aubameyang, Havertz, and Sterling will have to be left out. The question is which one? Because surely Aubameyang has to start, because that's the one that this is the one game where I'm glad we signed Aubameyang, because I hope Aubameyang has a point to prove, and that's why he plays extra well and scores a goal or two or three. But because otherwise I'm not particularly happy that we have Aubameyang. But for this one, I'm quite happy that we have Aubameyang. So I will say Aubameyang now. Obviously, Pite, I assume you will agree with this anyway, but I'll say mine for now. I really don't want to say Sterling, but I feel like I have to say Sterling.
It's good. That's why I think we're going to play a 3-4-3, because then he can have... Like, I just don't... With the way Graham Potter is, I don't see him... Like, this is like a Kante lineup. This is what we need to do to get a result, but do you actually see him doing this? I don't think so.
No, and I'm trying to figure out how we beat them, not what Potter will do and then lose.
Well, I don't... With this lineup, with the three in midfield and the five at the back and stuff, I think... You know, I feel like we might be defensively more solid, but then going forward, you've got two attackers. Sterling, who likes to go wide, Aubameyang, and then who's going to push up out to the right? That's my problem. Who's giving us width?
But a 3-4-3 doesn't allow Sterling to be wide anyway. We've learned this. Like, that's what we always complained about when Tuchel played a 3-4-3, and we said, oh, Pulisic isn't playing in his actual position because he's not fully wide. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it were like that, and then you'd play Sterling, he's not fully wide, is he? And even then, you're still leaving out Havertz, but I'm like, Havertz was good last game. Sterling's been shit for 6 weeks. I know he scored last game, but he was still shit. So I'm like, do I just want to play Sterling because he's called Sterling? Because I almost don't want to. But it's a tough one. So would you rather switch the formation, or if we were to stick with this price, would you still pick Sterling just next to Aubameyang?
With what?
If we were with this formation, would you stick Sterling next to Aubameyang, or would you then go Havertz if it is this formation?
See, I don't. What I said earlier, I don't like this front two at all, because I feel like we won't be able to play at the press, and then we've got no one to hit long. So, if it was my personal thing, I would play probably like Broja and I don't know, Sterling or Pulisic, but Aubameyang's going to start.
To interject on Broja, because I tweeted in blue and I saw that Chelsea lineup. I didn't watch the game, but I saw he wasn't starting. I thought, lol, that's hilarious. But I felt a bit harsh after, because I've been really into Graham Potter recently, and like his use of players like Moises Caicedo, who he didn't use basically at all at Brighton for the first like 4 or 5 months he signed, and they threw him in against Manchester United because he felt okay, he's ready now. If Broja didn't start midweek and he didn't start at the weekend, maybe there's a small chance like he didn't start midweek because he's planning a little surprise against Arsenal and he thinks that Broja could be ready. So maybe he's not completely out of the question, and maybe he's seeing something that Piper's seeing of, can we exploit Arsenal in behind and try and match someone like William Saliba physically?
I mean, I wouldn't down hate for playing two strikers, but it just never happens, does it? So,
I mean, to be fair, but against Zagreb, I'm not sure if you saw any of that game in the end, Alex, but what we actually did is, well, it wasn't Broja that started. It was Aubameyang that played on the left. Havertz that played, so pretend this is Havertz. Havertz that played like in the middle, but basically more like a centre forward for once, like a bit like Firmino does for Liverpool. And then on this side, we had Sterling. So let's just pretend this is Sterling. So that's basically what our front three was, with Havertz and Sterling. So I guess, I mean, and then Broja came on and he did the winger part instead of Aubameyang. So I mean, I guess maybe one of them, they're both going to play a little bit from wider areas. I don't know. What would be your front two, Alex? Just say it as it is. What would be your front two?
My front two is a complete revolution of the team. I was just looking at it and thinking, if we go in front two, then you have no width because Ruben Loftus-Cheek at right wing back. Don't know if that's going to work.
Cucurella on the left, he can't attack either.
You're playing, okay, so we'll put a front three, then you're undermanned in midfield. It's all making me think to go to a 4-3-3 with Chalobah just as a sitting right back and then just having one more attacker. I mean, I don't know if that's completely
Chalobah is right back rather than Aspie.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
what would you say about that then, Pies?
I mean, Arsenal have Ben White at right back and it's working out pretty well. I'm not saying Chalobah's going to be anything like that, but if you're not asking Chalobah to push up,
but you're right. I think with Chalobah you're right. Like he's okay defensively, but if he gets too many like 1v1 situations against Martinelli, I think that could go horribly wrong. Like I still don't trust him being isolated.
Wrong for Aspie all the same, really, if you're honest.
Well, it could, but then we've got someone behind Aspie in the right centre back. It's more cover.
No, let's assume it's a back four then. Would you play, like, just for quickly, let's see, we might not stick to this anyway. But if it is a right back, would you play Chalobah right back or Aspie right back, basically?
Oh, probably Chalobah, yeah. But it would never happen.
I doubt it as well. I think if we were to play this, it would be Chalobah. It would be Aspie. Mate, I honestly, if we start this formation, I wouldn't be surprised if Potter doesn't start Koulibaly. Because for some reason, that's just what he does, even though he's the only guy where I'm like, at least someone can defend here. Obviously, Thiago Silva, but aside from Thiago Silva, I'm thinking. Which is hard. Would you really do that, Alex? Would you really play Chalobah like if one of his first few times at right back against Arsenal?
Well, this is the only lineup that I'm seeing is like slightly balanced, and I'm thinking as well, like just playing devil's advocate completely here. Like we're not asking Chalobah here to like push up past the halfway line. Just if he's the most reserved right back, and then I get what Pastor's saying as well. That okay, Chalobah can be more exposed because he'll be more exposed to Martinelli, but that's not to say that if he plays right centre back, Martinelli just hangs onto him or like goes straight at him and skips past the Azpilicueta part, who might not always be, wide right. It's not always going to be 1v1 in that battle. So I don't know, mate. Devil's advocate, I think if you're going for the most balanced lineup of the most balanced chance of defending and most balanced chance of getting a goal, like this is just where my brain's going. Okay.
See, in general, people know my favorite formation is the 4-3-3. So I don't exactly have the biggest problem. I am just now number one. I'm very confident that Potter is going to play a back three, but we're not here to predict an 11. We're here to think what will work best. I'm not too against it. I mean, we basically talked through what we do with the other one, and we realized, we don't want any of the forwards. So let's say if it's this formation, then Alex, who would you then pick as the front three? Again, just a quick reminder: in the last game, Aubameyang played on the left. Havertz was in the middle as a centre forward rather than a real striker, and Aubameyang was like Liverpool did it with Mane and Salah, and then one that rather than does always this, it's kind of this guy that stays here, and then these two storm into the middle. But would you fill it with real wingers this time, and then Aubameyang as a real striker up front, or how would you feel that, Alex?
I feel like every time I come on these and it comes to lineup time, I get so much. I get too into it and too hipster. I'm pretty sure last year I said Lukaku at left wing back for the fun, but hear me out.
You said right winger once.
No, I said left wing back to charge up and down the flank.
No. But once you seriously, I'm pretty sure you seriously said play him like as a right forward, and then do Havertz in the middle so he can run the channel and stuff.
Oh yeah. In fairness, I don't think that was ever tried, so maybe that would have saved him. Who knows? But
maybe
I'm slightly more seriously here. If we're going 4-3-3, which I know we might not be, but let's entertain it for a second, right?
Yeah.
Aubameyang down the middle, Sterling on the left, Loftus-Cheek on the right. So then you have your front three, and then if you want to, you can retreat into a back five.
Yeah, but shouldn't we then put Mount on the right and Ruben in midfield?
Well, possibly, yes. Now you said that.
Poor Ruben, my guy's already played 7 positions this season. Don't make it 8. Come on.
But again, if you want the balance of protection, I mean, that is essentially the exact formation. Well, not exactly. It's exactly the same setup we were probably going to go to anyway, but in just a more pleasing, more balanced setup rather than Sterling Aubameyang up front.
That's true. So you would then put Ruben here.
Yeah. Let's put Ruben.
Not Gallagher, for example. I guess it makes more sense. Much of Gallagher, it's difficult for you to pick him, is it?
It makes more sense to have Ruben there, and then, I mean, on paper that lineup is a lot more. it's a lot nicer.
What worries me is who does the right attacking here, because obviously Mount can fill his role, but he's not a winger, is he? Especially in a 4-3-3, especially when the right back behind him, as you're saying, is supposed to stay back all game. That means
you're not looking to attack. You're not looking to tear down a deep blocker. You're looking to. We've already said you're not the favourites going into this game against Arsenal.
But then we still have no. I feel like we have no right side if this is our right side. You know what I mean? Where I'm like,
I guess in a sense, but. You've got on paper. I know Sterling hasn't been good, but you've got a stronger left side.
Whatever you're picking Sterling, I will pick Pulisic instead.
Really?
I'm not starting Sterling. Fuck off. I've had enough. I've absolutely had enough. My guy misses every seat. Everyone finds all the excuses for him. I can't do it anymore, honestly.
Oh my god! I didn't realize Chelsea fans had that done.
No, it's just me.
You've Timo Werner'd him.
Yep. Nah, I'm not. It's just I think Sterling still hasn't been dropped for his stinkers. I'm like, you need to be dropped at some point. Get dropped. I know I wouldn't drop him against Arsenal either. Would have dropped him weeks ago, but Potter didn't. So, and I'm going to stick by my guns. And I'm like, he needs to be dropped. So, until Potter does, I will keep saying that. It's the end of the discussion.
So you're going Pulisic.
I will be voted out. Yeah, so it's absolutely. I outvoted it. It's absolutely fine. I will pick Sterling. But would you pick that? Would you then I don't know throw Havertz in here somewhere, Alex, or stick with it?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know what the chat thinks of this. There's a chat like. Is this more encouraging than the Pius? Is this more encouraging?
I would do something completely different to a 4-3-3. I'd go 4-2-3-1. Then I'd have Sakari.
Completely different to a 4-3-3 or 4-3-3.
I thought you were going back 5 there.
I'd drop Jorginho. I'd play Zakari and Kovacic. I'd play Sterling, Mount on the right. Actually, I'd play Pulisic, Mount, Sterling, and then Aubameyang up top. That's what I would do. I don't like 4-3-3 because I think this leaves Jorginho too isolated.
Well, you also saw what happens when we don't play Jorginho when we played Brighton. So,
True, but I prefer
without Jorginho, we might as well just stay at home, in my opinion.
Jorginho's been hit and miss in games that when people have pressed him, you don't really know what you're going to get from him. Either plays really well.
Him is a different discussion though to a team pressing high as a team though, because when I agree with you, when they press him specifically, he can struggle with that. But when they're just a high pressing team as a whole, meaning they're also going to press our defenders, not just Jorginho, because it's when we play like a somewhat lesser teams often, because they can't risk it to press our defense, they often start pressing our midfielders. And that's when they press the shit out of Jorginho, and that's when Chelsea Twitter loses their shit and say, Jorginho is awful. And that's when it doesn't work. But I think if they press the defenders, then Jorginho is the reason why we beat the press. But everyone
that was the best impression I've ever seen of people on Twitter.
I appreciate it.
That's just exactly how I sound some of these accounts to sound like. That's brilliant.
Fair enough. Okay, I mean, Alex, we might as well. We're sat here talking about it. What do you think of it? 4-2-3-1 now that Pies threw that in the mix?
Yeah, I think that's also a bit more encouraging than the setup we had before. I mean, these are all really, really more encouraging setups that you're probably not going to play. But I think this is just. I think Chalobah at right back, as much as he might hate the concept of it, I think that actually might be better than Azpilicueta playing on the right wing.
Maybe. Now, Pies, can I ask you one thing? We know that Zakaria probably won't start. He's probably not even fit to start, if we're honest. So, say you can't have Zakaria, would you then still play this formation and play with Jorginho instead of him, or what would you do then? Saying you can't pick Zakaria, basically.
I mean, it's not really much different because it could just go 4-3-3 off the ball anyway. But
yeah.
No, it would have to be Kovacic and then Mount. Yeah, I
guess so. And then obviously you'd pick, Pulisic on this one, or Havertz. Doesn't really matter, does it? I just think it's because Havertz, for me, had one of his better games very recently. Where to me, the game against Zagreb, I know it's only Zagreb, but also, us talking about how Zagreb went. So for me, Havertz finally played in a position, in a demand for him against Zagreb. I'm like, this is what we need him to be doing. We don't need him to be this real striker. We don't need these wannabe wingers like Mounts around him and stuff. We need people that would actually have the directness, like a Sterling, like a Pulisic, like an Aubameyang when played out wide. That those guys will be the ones that fill the box and make those runs and occupy defenders. While Havertz will be the elusive one, just moving around like a little weirdo when no one knows where he's going to be. Honestly, that's what I think Kai Havertz needs to be doing.
Moving around like a
Leave
little
Kai
weirdo.
Havertz the opportunity to not be marked all the time, and then Kai Havertz can be good. But if you make him a striker, he's always going to be marked. If you're playing right wing, he's always going to be marked because you're always going to have a left back on him. But let him play in a position where it's not as easy to just put a guy on him, and I think Havertz can be incredible. My opinion. Not saying everyone else agrees with that, but I enjoyed how we deployed against Zagreb. But of course, Arsenal is no Zagreb, is it? So, and then I'd switch it personally. At least Sterling scored off the right. Certainly didn't score off the left in recent weeks. But yeah, I mean, I guess so. In the end, what we've realised, and we've had a few of these this season, I'll be honest with you, Alex, we've had a fair few of these where we're like, okay, what would we like to play? And then by the time we get to the forwards, we're like, we have no idea what we want to do. Because the main problem is that we can't really judge what Potter's trying to do. So obviously we pick what we want to see ourselves. But because Potter does so many crazy things all at the same time, all the time. Like we've played 3 at the backs with 2 wing backs that are wingers. We've played 3 at the back with like Cucurella left centre back and then Chilwell left wing back and then Aspie right wing back where you're like, how's that happened then? And then a midfield 3. Like we've done all sorts of different things. So who knows what we're going to do? But yeah, we'll just take this off screen because it doesn't really matter. We haven't really come to a final decision. But what we've tried to get to is basically, okay, we really need a right back backup to Reece James. That's basically the conclusion of this. Rather than what we should be doing tomorrow, we need a right back backup. That's what we need. But hey, fair enough.
Maybe that can be the next article on ChelseaFC365.com plus.
Yeah, instead of looking at midfielders, we should do that more. Good idea.
There you go.
Absolutely, especially now that we found Zakaria, somewhere in the cupboards. We've got a midfielder here. Well, who knew? Who knew? We could have used him all this time. But a right back, we have no one. But the weird thing is, the last time Aspie actually played right wing back, started, was against Wolves, and we battered them 3-0, and Aspie was amazing. So it's like, but it's also Wolves when they didn't have a manager. Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah, how much does that count? But we never beat Wolves 3-0. Whether it's at home or away, we never beat Wolves 3-0. No matter who their manager is, no matter who our manager are, we never, Didn't
you beat them 5-2 like only 2 seasons ago away from home?
Yeah, that was Lampard, where we couldn't defend but just attack. That doesn't count.
Tomorrow scored from like 40 yards.
Yeah, tomorrow scored from 40 yards and all sorts. And we nearly bottled it at the end. Like, I swear it was 4-2, and then we thankfully scored a 5-2 because otherwise this could have gone real bad, I feel like, that day. But yeah, no, I just wanted to mention it because last time Aspie did actually start a game of wing back. I don't think he has since. He started a couple since then at right back in a back 4. But I think when he last played right wing back to start a game, I'm pretty sure we won that game. Well, no, I know for a fact that we won that game 3-0, but pretty sure that was the last time. So maybe we're all being super harsh on Aspie.
The one in my head as well that stands out is 18 months ago, so it might just be completely irrelevant. But I remember he did it against Real Madrid when you won the Champions League, and I thought he was brilliant in that game, but it was so long ago.
That is very long ago, to be fair. Wolves is only like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, maybe we're harsh on Aspie. At the end of the day, and that's always what I think, people need to remember. Like, we're not sat here saying, like, this is the be-all and end-all, what all these things that we're coming up with. We're fans. We're trying to have a little bit of a laugh about it. We're trying to be like, oh, tactically fancy. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not the manager. We're not the one under scrutiny. We're not the one that's going to be ridiculed and, laughed out the door by the media if it goes wrong. So we can say whatever the flip we want. At the end of the day, none of what we say will impact what Graham Potter picks tomorrow. And at the end of the day, we would just have to sit there and say, oh, hopefully it works, hopefully it doesn't. Well, hopefully it works and then maybe it doesn't, I guess. But yeah, the last thing. Let's do some predictions, shall we? I'll start with you, Pice, then I'll give mine and you can finish it off, Alex.
Oh,
Pice.
fucking hell. Get the negative one
okay,
out.
I do mine first. You can wait for that. I'll do mine first. I will say 1-0 Chelsea.
My turn?
Yep.
3-1 Arsenal.
Okay. Fair enough.
I will go.
To be fair, for Pice's standards, it's quite impressive that he thinks we're going to score. Alex, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go 0-0.
Well, that's going to be fun, isn't it?
Exactly.
Brilliant. Fantastic, Alex. Yeah, but basically I was thinking the same thing, and then I was like, please just nick one at the end, boys, please. That's basically what I'm basically like. You know, the initial lineup that we had on screen was like a back five, midfield three, and then just two forwards in the team, which will see none of the ball, no matter who the forwards are, whether it's Aubameyang, Sterling, Aubameyang, Broya, Aubameyang, doesn't matter. If we play this 3-5-2, they will see none of the ball, just like it was in the beginning against United, even though we obviously didn't play up front two against them. But still, that was how it goes. And then I just hope, okay, at least maybe we won't concede, and then later on we'll just nick one. So I said 1-0. But hey, we have to hope. And that's the situation, because usually against us, I'm like, yeah, 3-0, we're going to batter them, and then we lose 2-1. Do you know what I mean? So now we're in a position where we're all a little bit petrified, which I feel ashamed by the way, that I feel scared about ahead of playing Arsenal. And again, I stand by what I said earlier. When we have a fit squad, I believe that we have a better squad. Now, obviously, they have had time to like gel together, work together, and make their game plan work. But I think, as in comparing individual v individual, I think we have a better squad than Arsenal. But it doesn't help us when we have 5 of those players that would be the better ones out injured. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we round this one out. Thank you guys for watching. Big shout out to both Alex and Pice for joining me on the stream. Now, I've linked a lot of the things down in the description. So please check out Alex's YouTube channel. Please check out his TikTok account. Please check out his Twitter account. And please check out Pice's Twitter account. And of course, a website they both work on, but Pice's website, ChelseaFC365.com, is also linked down in the description. Please check it out for also articles written by Alex himself. Alex, shout out to you. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you giving me your time. Same for you, Pice, as always, bro. Please go to the bridge tomorrow and just come home with 3 points. I would love you forever.
Mate, I would be, honestly, I'd be over the moon if we won tomorrow. And that just says everything about one where Arsenal are at and we're at the moment. It just doesn't seem right, does it? That we don't expect to beat Arsenal, but here we are.
Yeah.
God's sake.
Honestly. What a shambles. What a shambles. But hey, maybe we'll sit here tomorrow and say, like, why were we so negative? We always knew we were going to win. But yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Please do subscribe. I've completely forgot to tell you that all stream long. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button as well. Hit the notification bell button so you don't miss any future streams. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Up to onwards. And we'll see you